What's up? All right, looks like I am officially live on YouTube. Can't really tell, being that it's just me, I won't be able to know if anybody is there. But anyway, um, got my wire cutters, got me a tool for stripping the cabling that's around. Actually, I have to readjust it because I was using it to cut some small wires. Doorbell, and got me a cheap pair of crimpers. They work okay, but one of the things that I'm doing is I'm utilizing RJ45 jack for Cat 6 cabling, which has the very small one there. Standard RJ45, but it also has this thing called a sled. And you fit the cables through there. You then insert it on into here, and then you crimp it on down, and you now have a cable. Woohoo! Ethernet, way to go. And I also have some boots for my cables. Put everything into little storage containers, makes it easier to carry and to keep up with. But little boots, these are pretty cool to color coordinate your cables so that you know what they are by simply looking at the ends without having to memorize everything. Great for home networking type thing. When you're dealing with a work environment, it doesn't work as well. Apologize for that. But when you're dealing with a work environment, these type of ends don't work very well because you have hundreds, if not thousands, of cables. But a little storage boxes for everything. That's the little sleds. And then also something important, I won't be using it at this point in time, but once you get done making cables, if you don't want to just plug them in or right then and there, you can use a tester. So I have a little cheap testing kit that you stick your RJ45 into here, and then you stick your RJ45 into here. You turn the on switch, and then it pops up and tells you, it counts off all the cables and lets you know which one is what. Give me 1 second. The animal that I have in the household, one of them, wants to go outside. So let me go ahead and get him out. You can still hear me though, even though I walked away. But there we go. Oh, it's rather warm out today. That's good. For all those people that are forced to work outside, that is working outside, they at least get some warm environment to be into. And this is the test cable that I'm using right now. I'm going to make a couple ends first, make sure I know what I'm doing again before I get to making my actual cables. I cut about 3.5 foot cables for my patch panel. All the rooms in my house go into what I have is wall mounted patch panels that sits up on the wall, but my switch is rack mounted. So with it being rack mounted, all the cables literally just come on out and plug into the switch that way. I decided that I wanted to make it look pretty. And by making it look pretty, I was going to get me some shorter cables, run those cables from the wall mounted patch panel on into the switch. And then I've ordered from Monoprice, they're currently backlogged, some 6-inch cables. So then I can turn around and put those ends into the half U patch panel that I have on into the wall and make it look cute and professional and all that other good jazzy stuff that we always talk about. But this cable here, I cut it from this spindle that I purchased. I figured I needed to test and learn how to make cables, so buy some cables and make them on my own. This right here shows up as Was it 100 feet or 500 feet? I think it was 500 feet. But just picked it up. It's like 30 bucks, 40 bucks or something like that. And decent cable. I've used it to make some of the cables that are in this patch panel already. And because I'm not a extreme professional at this, it does take me a little bit more time to get it right. So I'm slow. I'm open to admitting that, letting everybody know that. But if anybody wants to chit chat, the chat is open. So you're more than welcome to type into the chat. Or if you have my information, you can send me an email and we can talk via that way and I can respond. But until then, I'm going to go ahead and start tinkering around with this cable. All right. And I have to focus because I'm not all that great at remembering all of this stuff. Um, so I'm always um, not as great at things. Leave that to the professionals to be able to handle this in a much more professional manner. Me, I'm just here for kicks and giggles and for fun. Hi, that's cool. You're watching. Thanks. Yeah, I picked up my phone and seen your message there, so responded. All right. Cool. Hello. How are you? All right. So standard Ethernet cable, if you can see there, it's called a twisted pair, and it's an 8 pair twisted pair. So there's a total of 8 cables. Well, 4 cables twisted pair. So there's 4 cables that are white, and they have a color associated with them, and there's 4 cables that are solid color. Now, the white is going to be brown white, orange white, green white, blue white, and of course we have brown, orange, green, and blue. So depending upon your skill set on how you want to do it, you can rattle off all those great standard terms for that, brown, white, brown, green, green, white, blue, blue, white, and you can do what's called T56A or T56B for the twisting standards. Predominantly, America does the T56B. So I started doing that, and some parts of the world conform to that as well, but not all parts of the world. Um, so it's basically just a matter of choice. If you're not familiar with what your area does, then feel free to look it up or talk to people who actually make cables and see what they say. So now I've taken my tool, wrapped it around there, twisted around a couple times, remove it, and boom, now my cables are exposed. Now, one of the things you do when you're doing this tool is you want to investigate your cables and make sure that you didn't cut any of those. And looks like I may have cut down a little bit too thick and cut some of the cables. But let's go ahead and dive on in and see. So with this being Cat 6 cabling, it has this center separator for noise. Then I have my each individual cables. So like I said before, we have blue, blue, white, brown, brown, white, orange, orange, white, green, green, white. Now, do we do the little thing? And they're all twisted. So you can see they all wrap around each other. And that's for noise and things like that. Apologize. I do forget that coughing in your hand is the wrong thing to do since I'm predominantly washing my hands all the time. You're supposed to cough into here, but for people like me, coughing into the elbow is very difficult to do because my body is not connected like that. So my cough cup doesn't work for me. But, it is what it is. Um, but no, it looks like these cables are perfectly fine. I didn't go down too low, But for prosperity's sake, I'm going to pull it back just a little bit. So after you get done cutting these, you want to fold them back some. Everybody does it differently, but this is a common core of what people do. And you take your little snippers and you want to cut this plastic piece off right here. The easiest way to do it is to make sure that you pay attention. Hold on one sec. Well, look at that. Spam call. These people call all day long, all the time. They kind of slowed down with the quarantine going on, but now I guess they're picking back up and starting to do it again. But so you hear each one of these sides, the little plus that's in here, you just nip on the plus side and then you twist and it comes right on off. But you have to pay attention and make sure that you don't nick the cables when you go down there. So what I like to do is take my clippers and run it right along the little slot there and nip just like that. And I do it rather slowly because I'm just not trained and I don't do this enough. And I use YouTube videos for my learning process. And let's see here. Oops, hit one of the cables. See, that's the problem. But once you do it right, you're able to twist it on off. So I messed up. So cut off the end. And start all over. Do, 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 do. I guess this helps when you don't do it over your computer or you have some type of protective covering down to protect it. Me, I get an F for that though. But we get to start all over again. So back to cable one. We're going to go ahead and strap this puppy on in. Do it around a couple times. Shoop. Just like that. We got our cabling done there. So once again, fold back the cables. And this time I'm going to pull it a little closer to me so I can see it and be able to snip better. Because the last thing I want to do is spend all day long trying to make one end. That for me is like, oh, this is horrible. I suck at doing this. I need to be better. All right, so we got one in, got two, three, and four. All right, so got all in. So you just twist, and just like that, comes right off. The little plastic cabling that was in there. Now, after you do that, you want to look on in there, make sure that you didn't accidentally nick any of the cabling, because that's a bad thing. Last thing you want to do is nick your cabling, which can cause you to get plenty of errors and all that other good stuff. So always take the time to look at your cabling, make sure everything is good before you proceed. The last thing you want to do is get your cabling all set up, get it actually slid into your sled in this case, and everything is good. Get it slid into the RJ45 jack, crimp it down, and then you start failing with errors because you nicked one of the wires up in here and you didn't realize it. And now you're getting all kind of errors and stuff just isn't working as you need it to work. So that always sucks. So An ounce of caution can help make things better for you, especially when you're just learning. So everything looks like it's good here. So the next tool I'm going to use on this is going to be my trusty little spoon. I use this to help straighten out my wires. It makes my life easier. So I just take a little split there, put it on in there, and boom. All right. And just like that, blue seems to be a little bit more tightly wound than the other coloring. And it's requiring me to do more work to do the separation there. But it's a-okay. We're going to get that done too. All right. There we go. So got three split. What's left? Brown, white. And just like that, it's done. All right. So the next thing you want to look at doing is you want to straighten your wires. So by using the back of the spoon, the part that you normally hold, you can put it up against the spoon like so. And now you're able to straighten that wire. You don't have to use this. You can use any object that is not sharp. I just happen to like a spoon because having plenty of spoons available made it easy for me to use this. But any non sharp object will work as this task. And if you get really good at it, you don't have to use any of this at all. But if you get that good at it, this will be your job or a side gig, and you won't have to worry about that at all. I'm not that good. So I'm utilizing extra tools to make my job a little bit easy here since this is not my job. But as you can see, straightening out the cables is not that difficult. Um, as you go up in the cable specs, keeping the cables twisted as much as possible becomes more important. So when you're dealing with Cat 5, the cables being twisted up into the jack is not as important. But when you go to 5E, it becomes more important. When you go to 6, it's more important. With 6A, it's even more important. And when it gets into 7, you literally keep the cables twisted as much as possible and you barely twist them out. So the standards change there. So now, as you can tell, we have them all listed on out, pretty much straightened. The blue one is a little wiggly there, but everything else seems to be straight. But give me 1 second. Time to let one of these animals into the house. He wants to come back in after being out. I don't blame him. Ah, he's had his time out and got his bathroom time on there. Now he's done kicking it, and back he goes. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right. So now, something that is very important to remember that a lot of times is not discussed is making sure that you have your T56A specs down. Now, one of the main differences between the specs is basically one color. So the green white and the blue white, green and blue become reversed in the specs. So in one T56 spec, the green and the green white are split between the blue. And in the opposite spec, the blue is split between the green. And I don't know which one specific it is because I don't have it committed to memory. But utilizing Wikipedia, I can quickly look it up. And the T56 has the green split between the blue, and the T5A has the orange split between the blue. Oh no, T5A is completely different. The orange and the green. Okay, yeah, that's the basis. It looks like the orange splits in between the green versus starting. So in the T56B format that we're doing, we're going to start with the orange white. Then we're going to go to orange. Then we're going to go to green white. And my green is all the way over here. So we're going to have to turn around and get it to pull over here. But then we have blue, blue, white, and then we have the green over here. And then we go to brown, white, and brown. So brown is going to be last. Brown, white's going to be there. Green is going to be over here. And then green, white. So just like that, we now officially have our cabling sequence lined up. So it starts with one side with a white color, or it starts with a solid color, and then it's always going to end with the opposite of that. So if it starts with the white color, it's going to end with the solid, or if it starts with the solid, it's going to end with the white color. So in this case, white, orange, orange, green, white, blue, blue, white, green, brown, white, brown. And this is your standard cabling sequence for T56B. Now, the problem that we run into is that ordering your cables is easy. It's about getting them into this tool that becomes difficult. That's the problem that I've always run into with setting up my cabling, is that doing this part is relatively easy. The hardest part of inspecting is being able to see those little small potential nicks in your um, cables that you may have caused inadvertently with cutting things. But this part here, getting it into your jack, your RJ45 jack, is the hard part because you have to keep these cables in order. So a lot of times you see people get into wiggling the cabling and things like that, trying to straighten them out, keep them together into alignment. So in this case, the orange, orange, white, the green, white, blue, blue, white, green, brown, white, and brown. So right now it seems like I have them pretty straight, pretty laid out. Um, but this is my problem always. I get them all started out really good when the cables are nice and long like this. But then, as you can see, my brown white has moved on over in front of the blue cable. And that's always been my problem. One cable always decides to give me the blues with staying in position as it's supposed to. But once you get good at this, you do a couple hundred of them. And, when I say a couple hundred, I'm talking about cables. And if you do 100 cables, that means you've done 200 jacks because each cable requires two ends to actually be a cable. But once you get into the groove of doing it, it becomes super easier to be able to focus, pay attention, remember, and to line them up and know which one is your treble points and adjust those treble points for you. So just like that, brown, white, brown, green, blue, white, blue, green, white, orange, white. All right, so let's go ahead and try to slide the sled with these items. Now, one thing you can try to do to make your life easier with your sledding, and I seen someone mention this on one of the videos that I watched on it. They say cut your cables at an edge. So like right now the cables are all roughly straight. By cutting them at an angle, it makes it easier to get them into the sled. So now we're going to go ahead and get these cut. I'm not going to cut them on the camera because it literally falls down onto the laptop. But we're going to go ahead and put the cables together, and then I'll show you the end result of cutting them at an angle. One thing I highly recommend that you do is get you long enough snippers that you're able to cut all of your cables with one quick snip. Um, since I don't do this professionally, I never really invested in it, but looking for snippers that was long enough was always difficult, it seems like. Professional grade would be there, but it costs more money. And I was just doing this for myself, so it wasn't worth the investment in extra cables. And some snippers that I would use, not a whole lot. But now, um, slided it onto it to get the cabling right. Now, one of the cool parts about the sled is that if you get the cabling in just right and everything is lined up, then the cool part about it is you can snap off the ends of the cables much easier and get that straight cut that you need to go into it. All right, so, and of course, watching YouTube videos make this seem super easy. Oh, look, you just slide it on in and it just works. And it's like, yeah, it doesn't just work for me. All right, so all right. And green, orange, white. Looking into these tiny holes is so difficult. Oh. So my cables are lined up, which is good. I still have them lined up. But I think the holes are staggered, which makes it harder for me to be able to get them lined up into their appropriate slots. All right, let me go ahead and check and see if they're staggered, which I think that they are. I meant to do this yesterday. Yep, just as I thought, they're staggered. So they go at a diagonal like this instead of going in straight like that. So that means I have to diagonal my cables. So four on the top and four on the bottom. All right. So orange, white on the bottom, and then orange there at the top, green, white at the bottom, blue at the top. So that's kind of cool. Um, so the solids are at the top and the whites are at the bottom. Um, and there we go, like that. So orange, white, orange, green, white, blue, blue, white, green, brown. So this is going to be annoying. Ooh, I got one done. All right. So once again, professionals can do this in a much more timely manner. Me, I guess one of the benefits is that you can cut off more in to get them into the sled and then snip them down as necessary. All right, so let's go ahead and do this. Let's snip this on off because this isn't going to work. Oh, that's one thing I hate. Cleanup of cabling whenever I do them. It's always a super long process. All right, so now we're going to have longer cables so that I can feed it on in here. So I'll cut each cabling down some and then feed it through with the last cabling going last. See if that makes it easier. A standard, I would have been done with a standard one by now, but I'm not dealing with a standard one. Yep. Um, do, 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 do. So let's go ahead and this time, as I said, I made the cables longer. Got a next door message. So I made it longer this time instead of shorter. We're going to go through the same process, but like I said, I'm going to cut the cables down shorter to different levels here. You'll see in a second. And let's see here. All right. Got my endpoint there. I think I got it all. Nope. Feels like I forgot one. But we're going to twist it off anyway. Boom! Just like that. Endpoint done. So we're going to start with the orange, and then we're going to go to orange white. So we're going to lay that the longest, and then we're going to do brown last. So we're going to cut that down just a little bit. Say we'll cut it to here. Green white is going to be split with blue in the center. So we're going to put blue here. All right. So now we cut our cabling to different lengths. So we're going to be able to feed it through. Once again, we're going to go ahead and straighten our wires out. Of course, it's going to take some seconds here. And there we go. And like I said, the green white is going to be tied up in between two. And brown white will be last. All right. Probably would have had this end done if I had used the other Cat 5e or the non-sled variations of the RJ45s, but that's not what I have. Maybe I need to order some more. Let's see how this goes first. All right. Got the green white straightened out. Next up, we're going to straighten the green. Almost done. Like I said, straightening the cable, that's one of the easier tasks there. Not too difficult. I just used the back end of the spoon. There go the orange. As you can see, boom, went straight. Orange white done. Let's go ahead and knock out the blue white. Next up is the blue. And last up on the list, brown. Straighten up super easy. And brown white. All right. So now we got our sled again. Like I said, it's at a diagonal. It's easy to see there. That is at a diagonal. Focusing power of the camera is not as easy. But as we get back, it seems like it's able to work kind of okay. There we go. Can see a little bit better. All right. All right. So we're going to start out, like I said, with the orange, white, orange. So we're going to get that fed through first. So orange, white, and then orange. We're going to feed that through the diagonal. And almost have it. Boom. Just like that. Now the next step is going to be green, white, and blue. That's going to be our next color chart. So we got the orange, white, orange. Now we're going to do the green, white, and the blue. So green, white is going to be next that comes over, and then we're going to get blue together. We're going to switch the blue with the blue, white, and pull those two together. We're going to bend the cables back slightly so that we can put those two together. All right. Got that in there now. And let's go ahead and get the blue white on pushed in. And let's go ahead and get the green pushed on in. All right. Now, last up in our cabling adventures is going to be the brown white. Followed by the brown. And just like that, successfully got them all threaded through. Now we get to pull them on down this sled. Brown, white. Brown is just holding on a little bit. I have to pull him on up. That wasn't a brown. That was the extra end on the stripping of the cabling. So now that we got the cabling done, that's all lined up. Now, we know that the sled is going to go in there to roughly about there. So we need to snip off the ends of the cables just some so that we can crimp them on down. So when we're looking here, I can't see very well, but we see where the sled is going to go into it. And we want to make sure we get those cables on up into there. So we're now going to cut these ends of the cables just a little bit. All right. So just like that, we slide it on in. Everybody should be lined up. All right. Now just doing last minute checks on the wiring. Because if everybody doesn't line up correctly and go on into their position, when that cabling crimps down, the endpoints, they're not going to connect. And we're going to have a bad cable. And I've had plenty of bad cables in my life, so and granted, I've only done like 20 cables. All right, so yep. All right. So we're going to do an inspection. Let's see here. Orange, orange, white, orange, green, white, blue. All right. This looks like this is a good cable. Uh, Stand by, world. All righty. Eyes back, eyes back. So we're going to consider this to be a good cable. We're going to insert it into our cabling, the crimper. So this tool here, and then it's going to squeeze down that little plastic piece in there. So it goes on in like that, and then we squeeze the handles. And now you have an RJ45 jack. That turned out to be pretty good. All right. So for kicks and giggles, I'm going to cut this cable some. I'm going to do the other end, then we're going to test it. So now we're going to have this little really short cable. All right. Maybe this time it'll go a little faster since I took the time to think about what I had to do. All right, so I'm going to do it this long. Wrap it around it. Done. Pull off the end. Fold everything back. Now this time what I'm going to do different is that I'm going to put the green, white, and the blue together and cut those down. And I'm going to put the blue, white, and the green together and cut them down so that they're going to be very similar in height instead of cutting the blue, white together and the green, white together because they don't go together. The orange, brown, and the brown, white, and the orange, white, they can be cut together because they stay together. But since the green, white, and the green split, we're going to go ahead and consider cutting those. I think I did all four. Close enough. All right, there we go. So we're going to leave the orange, white together and the brown, white together. We're going to cut this one down to roughly about here. Oops. All right. And there we go. Straighten the blue. Straighten the blue, white. These cables are always a drag with getting started. And when you're doing it for demo purposes, having someone who actually does the recording makes it so much easier while you're doing the work. That way you just focus on one part of it. Me, I'm an amateur. So I'm an amateur cabler and I'm just doing this with my laptop because this is just all for fun. If you really want to learn how to cable and want to really learn how to do cabling fast, there's a ton of YouTube videos that'll get you the intro basis on how to do it. And I highly suggest after you get the basics done, then you just practice to get your speed together. All right. So in our cabling, it goes orange, white, orange, green, white, blue. So we're going to cut this one down together. Green, white, and blue. We're going to put those together. And boom. Then we're going to take green, white, and blue, white, and green and put those together and cut those down shorter. And then that way, when I get to feeding them through, they go through much easier. And they go through together. And last up is brown, white, and brown. All right. Whew. I feel good. It's either going to be a success or a failure, but it's definitely going faster once I kind of got the ordering down together and paid attention to what I'm doing. All right. So orange is straight, Orange white is now straight. All right. Our sled. So our sled says that orange white goes first and then orange. All right. All right, orange white is done. So next up is going to be green, white, and blue. So green, white, and blue. Those are the colors there. All new elite wrestling. All right. So green, white, and blue are together. Nope. Green and white went into the wrong coloring. Wrong hole. Nope. Come on. Go into the right hole, partner. All right. Green, white went into the right hole. Now we need to get blue to go into the right hole. All right. Got blue in. Although blue seems like it wants to be all over the place dancing. Now we got to do blue, white. Nope. Blue, white went into the top pit. All right. That's one of the problems you're cabling when you get to feed them through. If you don't line them up right, they start to twist and mangle all on you. Because the cables have a mind of their own. All right. Got green to go through. Now let's go ahead and bend brown, white on in. Since they wound up on the opposite side there. All right, so since I didn't do the cabling straight as it's going through, it doesn't slide down as good as it should, which means that it's not going to be as neat as this one was. So that means I didn't do a good job with this. Strip it all off, start all over again. I have to keep the cable straight in order to keep the wires right. When I don't do that, it just causes a total disaster. So brown white is over here. And green white should be over here. Now, orange, white, orange, green, white. I think that's where my mess came. I didn't push the blue white over correctly when I was selecting them. So orange, white, orange, green, white, blue, blue, white, green, brown, white, and brown. And that should work out better for the sled. All right, let's see here. White, blue. I think this will work better. All right. So far the cabling seems like it's going to be better. Um, I just kind of screwed it all up the first hand. Just got the jamming cables on in. I think that was the root cause of all my problems. Okay. So definitely it worked out better when I re-threaded everything through. All right. Now, let's go ahead and cut the ends down. Let's go ahead and push it on in. All right. Now, with all of that said and done, we're going to put one end into our RJ45, and then we're going to put the other end into our RJ45. So it looks like I completely screwed this up. That flashing light there indicates that it's running through the cables, and looks like the only one that's working is the 7. Everything else is missing. So completely screwed that up. I got 5 and 4 mismatch, and then everything else is not connected with each other. So I'm going to count it off to you. 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2. And this is why creating cables when you don't know what you're doing is so frustrating. It's so aggravating. But clearly, I fumbled something. Could be that maybe the cables were not straight. Maybe they didn't go all the way in and get crimped down. It's a number of different reasons of why it didn't work. But whatever it is, I screwed up. And let's see if I can now see what the problem is. Look at them side by side. Nope, can't see anything wrong with them. Okay, so it looks like this end may not be long enough with the cables. Looks like maybe it didn't come through all the way. in comparison between the two. There we go. Because looking at this side of it, it looks like all the cables came through and got pinned down. But looking at the other side, it looks like maybe all the cables didn't push all the way through. They got connected by the jacks. But since the cables didn't push all the way through, the metal doesn't connect down on them. And actually, on the right side, it looks like every cable got pushed all the way down towards the bottom. And on the left one, it looks like the cables did not all get pushed down towards the bottom. So I doubt this will fix it and make it better, but you never know. Maybe I'll get another end to work, another cable to connect out of the 8. As I said, this never works. I have too many cables that are not matching up. Nope, I wound up messing all the rest of them up because now only 7 is showing up. Well, 1 out of 7 or 2 out of 16. It's pretty bad odds. But, oh well, it is what it is. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and end this stream of me talking to myself, making cables. I'm going to have to tinker around with this some more and figure out what I did wrong and try it again. But until then, everybody stay easy, party hard, and have a good time. Peace. Catch you later. Holla. Yes, I want to end this. Yes, I want to end this.